Yeah.
I love my HBCU. And boy, I love it, love it. I love it, love it. I love my HBCU.
And man,
I hope my team they won.
Yeah.
I hope my team they won.
yeah, man,
I hope my team they won.
Yeah.
I hope my team they won.
yeah.
I tune into the HBCU Sports Lab to see if my team won or lost. If they lost, I'm quiet as a mouse. But if they won, keep tab. I'ma do the dab, yeah. Dr. Cavil, he know what he be talking about. Mike and Charles, they know what they be talking about. They compress the analytic data with this hip hop. If you know them like I know them, they gon' tell you if your team, if they won or lost, and who the ball. So listen to Professor, yes sir, and pay attention, cause he gon' teach a lesson.
This is Dr. Cavil with Inside the HBCU Sports Lab with Mike Washington and Charles Bishop. Early morning. We got an early flight, so we decided we get on here and give you an update. Make sure you got your show. So we'll do just that. Welcome to episode 696 of Inside the HBCU Sports Lab radio show and podcast, the show that's covering the sporting HBCU diaspora, all things HBCU sports for institutions large and small. From the NAIA to the NCAA, we share insights and information on the HBCU sports culture, HBCU athletic aesthetics to facilitate the story of HBCU programs in the business of HBCU sports. In short, we call it the HBCU sports pedagogy. I'm your host, Dr. Kenyatta Cavil, along with my co-host. The team is back together again, like Washington Charles Bishop. We're filming from our home studios and sending the signal live, Case-Way 1230 AM studios with the Texas Radio Hall of Fame. Well, not really, but we'll give a shout out to Ralph Cooper to give him some love, multi-Hall of Famer. And we are shooting from our hotel room and or lobby. Give a shout out to Texas Southern University, where we're getting back to Houston, Texas, after a very busy and full day, if you would, in Atlanta, Georgia. With that being said, Charles, how you doing today?
Doing well, Doc. Doing well. Up early. Got to get a little bit more coffee in me. Yeah, looking forward. We had a great time here in Atlanta. Looking forward to getting back and getting back to the swing of things back at home.
Mike, how you doing?
Man, I'm good. I'm looking at that hat you got. I am so alpha five for down.
You like my head? I just go ask y'all.
Man, that hat just threw me off. I'm sorry. I got to take another sip of coffee on that one. But
is that just coffee?
It's just throwing me. I'm sorry, throwing my sway off this morning. But other than that, doing good, man. Get like Charles said, I'm getting my coffee in. Had a great evening, exciting football, and about to head back to H-Town.
Yeah, we fought through the weather, little sprinkles here and there, but really what could be considered in prayers for all those that the hurricane weather will be affecting. But for us, we just got a cloudy day, but in terms of the temperature, that evening it wasn't bad, and we had some pretty good football that was played for a majority of the game. And in fact, we'll kind of kick it off right there, give you an update. As you know by now, the Cricket MEAC SWAC Challenge, which was kicked off, was played on ABC, a part of ESPN events. It was on ESPN Plus, ESPN Deportes at the Center Park Stadium in Atlanta, Georgia. I had number 3, North Carolina Central Eagles, coming in this matchup versus number 4, Southern Jaguars. MEAC SWAC matchup, as you know. The final score was 31-14 with the Eagles getting it done. Both of y'all during our pregame analysis, when I asked you all to give a pick, said that North Carolina Central would get it done. So let me first say kudos to you all for making the call. What was the score that you had, Charles?
The score I had was 2017. I had it much closer.
Good stuff. Mike, what did you have?
Yeah, I also had it close. I think I had 24-18, something like that. Yeah, 24-18.
Yeah, as you got into it, that first half was, at least in terms of the closeness of the game, was really good. Southern essentially had 2 huge plays, long runs, one by the quarterback, one by the running back. and it seemed like North Carolina Central pretty much carried the tempo of that first half, but some big points. They had a drive that they got all 13 drives. It really kind of made a statement at the beginning of the game that they got in and got the touchdown. But as we said, Southern came right back, had the long run after a couple of plays and got in touchdown, scored at 7-7. Looked like North Carolina Central was going to show that they were going to be able to run the ball consistently. And they went all the way down to essentially what the 3-yard line. On a play, they got into the 1st-yard line. It was question, bang, bang. One look, maybe you thought it was a touchdown. Other look, obviously, it looked like a fumble. And it was called a fumble, recovered in the end zone. So Southern took over the ball at the 7. They obviously went to instant replay. On the replay, it pretty much was clear when you first saw it from one angle, though, you was like, oh, yeah, this is going to be overturned. Central will get a chance to make a decision on 4th down to go for it or kick a field goal on the 1-yard line. It was clearly shown from the other angle that they got it right. It was a fumble recovered by Southern. They gave them a little more life. Kind of went back and forth, got a chance to make some plays. Got in the end zone, put it up if you would. And you was like, okay, this is Southern. They're going to get right back into it. Threw you off. You were kind of like, even though Central has controlled this game, Southern has found a way to make plays. That's when they got the run play by the running back. Got up in there and took their lead. And then all of a sudden you saw that essentially North Carolina Central had a big play that was able to allow to be done on special teams in the kickoff. Boom, boom, 2 more plays that were done. Some people, Carlos Brown, as we in our group messages was losing it. He could not understand what took place. And so actually Central went in halftime with the lead, shut them out in the second half, put up a couple points and got away with it. Kind of what I saw. I'll go to you, Mike. What were your thoughts in terms of just the overall schematic of the game? We'll get into some more details about specific players in the second and third segment, but just the overall schematic of the game. What do you think?
So what sticks out to me was the tale of 2 halves. It was close in the first half. In the second half, basically, Southern was shut out. They didn't score. They didn't move the ball with the same efficiency or even with the lightning in the bottle approach they had in the first quarter. So that to me stood out. If you look at the overall anatomy of this game, you look at there is no score for, and if you look at the 3rd down efficiency in the stats, that tells a different number. In the first half, you got to give Southern credit. They had better 3rd down efficiency. In the second half, I have in my notes here that their 3rd down efficiency dropped by like 40% in the second half. That means basically they had trouble moving the ball. I don't know what changed. I don't know what happened. I don't know what Trey Oliver had in the Kool-Aid at halftime. I don't know what he put in the Gatorade. I don't know if he intravenously injected the players with some get on your stuff, whatever. But something changed.
Watching them Prairie View videos, the area code down there at Prairie View, talking about intravenously.
little 50 cent word. But to me, I know we'll get into a lot more of the details, but to me, overall, just the tale of 2 halves. And then, minus the lightning in the bottle in the first half, they were Southern was shut down for the most part, defensive, defensively by the Eagles in the second half.
Mike, as I kind of gave my framework of the game, not play by play, but just overall some big plays that were in the game. What were your thoughts in terms of how I saw it?
I'm sorry, repeat it. I'm sorry.
That was for Charles. I was asking. That was my framework of the game. So I was going back to you, Charles, kind of like Mike did. What were your thoughts in terms of how I visualized the game in terms of some key plays? Particularly,
Doc, I think this game really turned right before halftime. And you go back, Southern had a big play. They had momentum. All of a sudden, it's 14-10, and inexplicably they pooch kicked it.
Yeah,
and it set up North Carolina Central with great field position, and it was a quick touchdown. So all of a sudden it's 17-14. You come back out after halftime. Southern goes 3 and out. They shank a punt, and North Carolina Central is able to get great field position. They go right in and score. And 24-14, that was kind of the ball game right there. You had, some explosive plays in the first half, but just in that period of time, right before halftime, 3 and out after halftime, and a shank punt, North Carolina Central goes in quickly, and that's the ball game right there. And you never sort of felt the sense last night that Southern could stop North Carolina Central's running game.
Yep.
We'll stay with you on terms of the running game. Throughout the game, we tend to sit, in the seats next to each other in the press box and give some updates. I like to watch the game on television, listen to the feed with Jay Walker and Tiffany Green calling it, and then I'll take it off and we'll talk about it. But because I do it like that, it's always interesting to me and I'll look up. Mike decided to sit higher so he could see a visitor. So he visually is a little different than us. So he was a row above us. And, we'll look at each other because not really a lot of talking going on in terms of the press box. We'll look, and I see these different faces at different moments and minimums in the games. So a lot of it was to me in that first half, specifically when it was close, but you saw Central ability to control so much of the game, particularly in running the ball. Give me a little more in terms of you talked about how effective they were against Southern in terms of running the ball, and how and Trey even said this in the press conference post game, was Givens, how they found a way to neutralize. You said before the game, I asked about chipping and all these things and how you would run, but you would see Givens on different sides of the ball. Tell us a little more in terms of Central, in this case, ability to run the ball and how they were able to maybe neutralize Givens in the process.
Yeah, I think it was big, and I think you saw from a time of possession standpoint. I mean, North Carolina Central dominated the time of possession, and they were able to really, with that veteran offensive line, really control the flow of the game. And that was the thing that really jumped out. I said going into the game that was going to be the matchup. The matchup was going to be in the trenches because they brought back, and Coach Oliver talked about it last night, 4 starters back along the offensive line. And you saw very early on, opening drive, I think was a tone setter in that they were able to, like Hank Stram, matriculate the ball downfield. And very little pushback, so I thought that was where the game was won last night with regards to North Carolina Central. Yeoman's work with that offensive line up front.
Charles Martin kind of summed it up there in terms of Southern couldn't move the rock, stop the run, played the DBs too far off, which hurt Givens. North Carolina Central's 3-step drop ball is gone. I'm asking you from that framework, Mike. You on board with Charles Martin, or did you see something a little different? I think I heard y'all say that, and even in part of your questions, Mike.
I think Charles Martin summed it up. I mean, really, you look 8.3 yards per rush. That's what NCCU averaged. Christian Mosley averaged 11.3 yards per carry. And you heard Coach Trey Oliver talk about packages, schemes for Givens. And no matter what they could do, Southern just could not. They were running up the interior. They hitting the side ends. And they could not stop the run completely. They hit 250 yards total rushing yards for the end of the night. And to me, when you control that line of scrimmage, you kind of control the flow of the game. And my man CB said, that's why the possession was so much in favor of North Carolina Central. I mean, it was almost a whole factor of 10x, which in mathematical terms means a whole hell of a lot. So they controlled the ball. The other piece, and I will say this, is on the defensive side. We're not getting there for Southern, but the coverage, because Charles Martin said it well. They started out with man-on coverage. Then they went to a deep cover 2, giving 100-yard cushions. Okay, they weren't 100-yard cushions, but they might as well have been 100-yard cushions. So that to me tells the tape, because when the Eagles passed the ball, they were simple 7, 8, 9, 10-yard outs. And, it's hard to stop that. When you can't stop the run, now you're throwing very efficient passes to the outs. It's hard to stop that.
Yeah, I agree. Good point. Let's take our first break and come back on the other side, get a little more analysis into this game. And we'll start looking at, as you alluded to, in terms of Southern's defense. And then we'll get in, obviously, with that, talking about North Carolina Central's, Central's defense and Southern's offense, about what they were able to do in the game. First half, second half. We'll be right back after this first break.
Yeah.
Get ready for the inaugural Unity Classic, Saturday, September 13th at Nathaniel Glover Community Field and Stadium. It's a clash of the Virginia Union Panthers of the CIAA and the Edward Waters Tigers of the SIAC. Plus, an HBCU band battle between the Edward Waters Triple Threat Marching Band and the Virginia Union Ambassadors of Sound. The inaugural Unity Classic goes down in fall.
This is Brian Fulford. AD Drew and I are co-hosts of the BCSN Sports Wrap. We talk about all things related to HBCU athletics. From the games, teams, coaches, and fan interest stories, we cover it all. You can find our shows on Facebook at BCSN Sports Wrap, YouTube at MyJBN Online, and everywhere you listen to podcasts like Anchor, Spotify, Google, and Apple Podcasts. You can also find the show on the Jericho Broadcast Network's app. Make sure to download. We look forward to you joining the conversation and being a part of the show.
History? Yeah, we built that. Pride? We fuel that. And on August 30th, we run that. 2 powerhouse HBCUs, Howard Bison, FAMU Rattlers, one legendary showdown under the Miami lights at Hard Rock Stadium. The energy unmatched. The culture undeniable. The vibes straight HBCU. 2025 Invesco QQQ Orange Blossom Classic. Get your tickets and book your hotel now at orangeblossomclassic.com. Saturday, August 30th at 4 p.m. in Miami Gardens.
This is the Dean of the College of HBCU Sports, Kenyatta Cavil of Dr. Cavil's Inside the HBCU Sports Lab with Mike Washington and Charles Bishop. Come mix it up in the lab where the course lecture is in session every Tuesday from 6 o'clock p.m. Central Standard Time on Facebook Live, YouTube Spreaker, or the BCSN app, as we discuss all things about the HBCU sports culture, including exploring the week that was in the sporting HBCU diaspora, as well as the upcoming week of HBCU sports. With me, the Dean, the College of HBCU Sports, on Dr. Cavil's Inside the HBCU Sports Lab with Mike Washington and Charles Bishop. Course lecture dismissed.
Compress the analytic data with your hip-hop. If you know them like I know them, they gon' tell you if your team, if they wanna lose, and who the ball. So listen to Professor, yes sir, and pay attention, cause he gon' teach a lesson.
This is Dr. Bill with Inside the HBCU Sports Lab with Mike Washington and Charles Bishop. They're having fun getting it done. They must be taking those breaks. I wonder what they running to get done while they're taking in between those breaks, trying to make it back in time. With that being said, let's get back into that conversation in terms of North Carolina Central and put some focus on them in terms of what they were able to do against Southern defensively. Now, in the first half, there were 2 huge plays for Southern to give them much credit for, but second half, obviously, as you see just with the score, they shut them down, shut them out in terms of the scoreboard. Going to you, Mike, as you started to kind of tip in that a little bit, give me your thoughts in terms of what you saw getting done for Central in terms of what they were able to do defensively against Southern.
Yeah, I thought they had a good scheme to really stop the run. And here's where I come from that. If you look at, the box score, I think Cam McCoy came out as a surprise. I think his ability to run, read option, whatever, may have come out, with some lightning in the bottle effects initially. But, minus those 2 plays, if you notice, he didn't pass very much. He had 14 attempts. and their defense was able to then neutralize minus those 2 big runs. The only time really that Southern had is a couple of counter option trays, reads, whatever. That's actually how McCoy scored. They had some poor tackling, discipline issues, but for the most part, and I won't get into those details, they held them to like 6 yards per. But in that average, statistically, you take away the 2 long runs, and it's down to 3-something yards per carry that they held Southern to. So great job by Trey. I said at the beginning of the game that it was coaching. He tuned that up, whatever. Cam McCoy is at least as advertised on the run side. We really didn't see. He only passed 14 times. That's it, or 14 attempts. So, for the most part, they, minus the poor tackling, whatever, in the second half, they were able to neutralize the run. That made them, to me, at times seemingly one-dimensional.
Yeah, you hear them living by the mantra, culture over scheme. And when you talk about alluding to that with his coaching ability, there's also a part of that to me in terms of how he motivates. But with that being said, Charles, let me get your framework of what you saw within the game from North Carolina Central's defensive perspective.
Well, I mean, even I think a bigger picture to that is, we talked about Southern not being able to stop the run, but it's enough blame to go around. I mean, everybody is going to have a long session, in film this upcoming week. I mean, I had some issues with, to be very honest with you, the game management from the coaching staff. There were, I alluded to the pooch punt prior to halftime. We saw 12 men on the field coming out of a timeout. They didn't really take a chance, going into halftime, in terms of some of the play calling there. So yeah, they really did become one-dimensional. But we find out a little bit later on there might have been some disciplinary issues as to why the name starter did not start. So there was just a lot going on for Southern yesterday, and you look back at it, and I think the big thing that I really kind of take away, and Coach Graves said it in the post-game press, a lot of things are correctable, but there are enough red flags to really kind of stop you in your tracks this morning. Like, wait a second, man. I know if you're a Jaguar fan this morning, you kind of feel like it's the same thing over and over and over and over again. So we'll see kind of what happens from there.
Yeah, it'll be interesting when you start looking at that matchup next week. It'll tell a lot in terms of Southern being the push. We also discussed, about, how big a win for this game would be. Also, what would a good loss look like? And alluding to in a lot of ways, Southern lost, obviously, but it even looked like a good loss in terms of what we were hearing from some folks out there. I want to give you another one of these breakdowns I see here. The Eagles had 409 yards of offense with 234 yards on their first 3 series, telling you in a lot of ways how they controlled the tempo of that game. So it was a weird game to kind of watch in that first half in terms of just the momentum plays, but you saw something there. I want to get into a little bit about this in terms of specifically Trey Oliver. He fascinates me in terms of how he is prepared to get his teams up for big games. Question came up in terms of what is his record in Atlanta? He said, well, it's beyond that. We like to play anybody, anywhere, classics. And he named a couple of classes where they got some big wins. My point here is to look at his ability to utilize, oftentimes the media focuses on some of these games, classics, and how subplots and lines came out of there. And I teased him at the game. He said, man, what did you think? I told you. Well, Givens, everybody was talking about Givens. What did we do to him? What we ever do? And he said, I'm not saying he ain't a good player, but we can scheme. We can get it done. We can coach it. But it's fascinating the way he's able to motivate his teams and put a boogeyman out there. If you would, Charles. Talk a little bit about that, how he takes what we say on these shows, media interviews, even if you are finding a way to give them credit, we picked them both. We talked about some of the concerns of Southern, other than if he was watching Carlos Brown's show, which you would have thought, obviously you would think that Carlos Brown Southern folks is going to find a way to talk about how he thinks Southern can do well. But he takes all that little stuff out there and he goes to town on it, Charles.
I joke about it all the time. He finds the slightest morsel of something, and he can't wait to use that as a motivational piece. Like you said, like some of our conservative around the country, they find that boogeyman. So Trey Oliver, he finds the boogeyman. It was Kelby Givens yesterday. He was like, wait a second. I got a couple of offensive tackles. They can neutralize him. He is a masterful at playing up whatever the talking point is that they can't do, and he utilizes it to no end to motivate his team.
I got to get to one of his practices to see what he's saying in terms of practice. Certainly, a pregame speech would be fascinating to hear. Charles, Mike, when you think about that, if you'll touch on that a little bit, but I also want to give the point he made in terms of his offensive line. Early in the season, to have an offensive line, plus the quarterback that has some maturity, didn't necessarily throw it around, but understood what his limitations were, very cerebral about, not doing too much and taking advantage, particularly, I guess, when he saw what they could do. Basically, 5 linemen coming back, he made the statement, Coach Oliver, that it was 4 of them that started. It was just the week before that one of them played so well that they decided to make the switch. But talk about the success and the focus on the offensive line allowing Central to do what it did.
Yeah.
Mike?
So you mean the offensive line? Yeah. And their performance?
Yes.
Yes. Well, I think, to be honest,
you can talk about that in terms of Coach Oliver, in terms of, as I asked Charles, his motivational tactics in bringing it out.
Yeah. Well, I got 2 or 3 key points. I said, going into the game yesterday, I said, remember you asked myself and CB, how would you handle Givens? And somebody said, I think a couple of us said we chip him. And I said, why not go at him as well? Mm-hmm. So my take in it is that the kind of personality that Coach Oliver is, as you just mentioned, the way the game was played, he challenged the O lineman. He said, can he be stopped? Is he Superman, basically? Can his cape be nicked? And we find out by the number of tackles or his output thereof, the reduction of his output is, yes, he was neutralized to an extent. He challenged his team. He said, yeah, we may go around him, but I got packages. I got some big offensive linemen that have accepted the challenge to go at Givens. And to me, that showed through the game. They averaged 6.8, 6.9 yards per carry. And not every one of those plays did they run away from him. Yes, they moved Givens around, but he had the packages that, and some of those times they were running at Givens. And what happened to Superman? So I think that goes into his motivation of his players and his preparation for a game. You're right. He does find every niche, every tool, whatever. But I think he kind of goes, to me, on the opposite side of Evan Flo. Where everybody else had nick him, run away from him, he had packages said, if he's there, we'll run at him. If he's not there, we'll run away from him. And I think that goes, yes, to the offensive lineman and their acceptance of the challenge, but to Coach Oliver, to his credit, his ability to motivate his players.
And give Walker Harris credit. He got the ball out of his hands yesterday, and we talked about it. Southern was giving him the cushion on the outer boundary there, but he did a great job of just moving the ball. I mean, even when he was pressured, he'd step up and run, and that was another element of putting pressure on Southern's defense yesterday. And I take my hat off. It was a great game plan that North Carolina Central put together.
Yeah, Dr. John Thornton and Dr. Israel. They're having a little fun this morning. Jeff Roberts, shout out to the lab listeners getting on here. The fans out there giving us love in terms of what they do. Let's take our second break. We'll come back on the other side. I want to talk a little bit about a poll. We'll look at the poll. But in this framework, I want to see your thoughts in terms of how far you would have dropped Southern. So I want you to think about that a little bit from that perspective. And where do you push maybe Central to if we release the poll this week? We start our official poll next week, but kind of want to get your thoughts on that. And then we want to get into some additional now this game outside of that. And then the final segment, we'll get in your thoughts in terms of what's next. How will other teams maybe looking at this game? What are your thoughts in terms of SWAC teams, MEAC teams looking at the MEAC? I want to kind of get your thoughts in that final segment on that. We'll be right back after this second break. We'll come back on the other side and get right back into it.
Now, you can't live in Texas and not have a good red meat blend. Texas Cowboy Dust is designed for steak and other red meats. It's out to be my most popular spice blend, made with onions, peppers, ground mushrooms, pink salt, and other spices. Texas Cowboy Dust also goes great with chicken, pork, vegetables, and adds a restaurant quality sheen to gravies and sauces.
It's like a loop machine. Going around town, trying to get down.
Vanilla smoked sea salt seasoning is for seafood. The tarragon and fennel bring out the natural sweetness in seafood. I also use it in rice dishes, on yams, asparagus, blueberry pancakes, and believe it or not, chocolate chip cookies. Vanilla smoked sea salt adds a salty and savory component to sweet dishes that create a symphony for the tongue.
Get ready for the inaugural Unity Classic, Saturday, September 13th at Nathaniel Glover Community Field and Stadium. It's a clash of the Virginia Union Panthers of the CIAA and the Edward Waters Tigers of the SIAC. Plus, an HBCU band battle between the Edward Waters Triple Threat Marching Band and the Virginia Union Ambassadors of Sound. The inaugural Unity Classic goes down in Duval.
History? Yeah, we built that. Pride? We fuel that. And on August 30th, we run that. Two powerhouse HBCUs, Howard Bison, FAMU Rattlers, one legendary showdown under the Miami lights at Hard Rock Stadium. The energy unmatched. The culture undeniable. The vibes straight HBCU. 2025 Invesco QQQ Orange Blossom Classic. Get your tickets and book your hotel now at orangeblossomclassic.com. Saturday, August 30th at 4 p.m. in Miami Gardens.
Compress the analytic data with your hip hop. If you know them like I know them, they gon' tell you if your team, if they wanna lose, and who the ball. So listen to Professor, yes sir, and pay attention, cause he gon' teach a lesson.
This is Dr. Bill inside the HBCU Sports Lab. Like I said, I want to get a little bit in terms of the poll talk. But before we do that, attendance at the game was announced just over 16,000. But you think about it being on ABC, ESPN Plus, so you talk about millions likely of viewers, and compared to the other game, you'll get that official notification like Tuesday or Wednesday in terms of what that looks like. But thinking about it from that perspective, because I could imagine some folks may have been a little concerned about the attendance. Obviously, the weather, a lot of things likely had something to do with that. But in the press box, when you saw the crowd, based on what you saw, it looked really good in terms of, from that perspective, from the press box size. But when you put that together and you add in the combination of what you're able to do for your total audience, if you would, including your fans at the game and those that are viewing it, Mike, what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I would even throw, if you'll allow me, a third factor in. You put that, what we saw in the audience, you put that number, out there. Was it 2 million, you hope, give or take, viewership? But compare that to what other games may have gotten during the season. Compare that to what other games got yesterday or didn't get. That's a huge factor. Just think the magnitude of that, millions and millions of viewers looking at this game, kicking off the 2024 It is an HBCU event that is tremendous. That tells you something bigger than football. To me, that is huge. So to me, that was the other factor. The first thing I wondered when they announced the attendance, I was like, all right, what's the viewership like? Because I had the game just like you guys on in the press box while watching it there and having the stats in front of me and, having the game. We had all of the, the technology tools. But in this day of age, the day we live where people stream a lot more, they watch a lot more, that interest, man, that to me was phenomenal. Not only what you saw at the game, but what, hopefully the numbers come out, but it looks like it looks like it's going to be a phenomenal number. So.
Let me get your thoughts on that, Charles.
Yeah, I mean, I think take a look at kicking off one of the first college football games of the season on ABC. I expect a good number in that regards. Like you said, I think to your point, sitting in the press box, I thought it was an even better crowd. I thought both North Carolina Central and Southern had tremendous representation there at the game. You saw the standing room only. You saw the individuals standing around the stadium. So, I'm very curious to see what the numbers will be with regards to viewership. But I think it was a great kickoff to college football season.
All right, let's get back into it as we kind of start to kind of look forward a little bit. Poll ranking. Let's see if we can pull that up and give you a little thought. I want to see if we were releasing a poll, what we're talking about. Obviously, as we said, number 3, North Carolina Central Eagles of the MEAC defeat number 4, Southern Jaguars, 31-14 in this matchup. First half close, big plays, what have you, but in the second half they dominated. So I kind of want to get your thoughts on that, Charles. Let's go to the top 7 in terms of that next slide, if we can get to it. We'll see that with Southern there. They come out 0-1 now. The good thing is this non-conference game, so they still have the 8 conference games. And we'll go to number 3, next slide, with North Carolina Central getting that big win, so they're 1-0 in the season. Trey Oliver is now 7-0 in terms of classics, as we added in terms of what that looks like. And then this next one we got into, I think the top 7, keep going, where we have this top 7, and remind everybody, number 7, we have Prairie View A&M 5-7, 3-5 last season. They will go against Texas Southern next week. That's 7 versus 14 matchup, I believe. Top team in there. You got Morgan State Bears 6-6. Number 5, South Carolina State Bulldogs at 9-3. Southern Jaguars are 8-5. North Carolina Central is 8-3. FAMU 7-5. Jackson 12-2. Already some concerns with FAMU. But certainly now, how high, Charles, do you push North Carolina Central? And
North Carolina Central put out They put out an impressive body of work yesterday. So just based on the fact that we've seen them and we've watched their body of work, I mean, I have no issues whatsoever bumping them up to number 2. We still have this upcoming week to see what the rest of the teams will do. That being said, my caveat with Southern, obviously they're going to slide, and they probably would slide out of at least the top 7. But keep in mind, all is not lost. They did play without the starter the majority of the game yesterday.
So, how far are you dropping Southern?
I'm going to drop Southern out of the top 7. You asked a question yesterday: is there a bad loss, or in terms of what does a bad loss look like? That was a bad loss. There were multiple things beyond just the defense not stopping the run that at least you raise a red flag about. But the great thing about it was game 1. There's plenty of season left. You might have lost some cool points or some respectability around the HBCU stratosphere yesterday, but I think Southern will be right back in the mix.
With that, let's go to the next side. So I can I want to get Charles on this. 8, 9. How far are you gonna drop him, Charles? You just said you drop out of 7. How far are you gonna drop him?
I would probably put him at 10.
Got you. Mike, Your thoughts in terms of how high you pushing North Carolina Central and how far do you drop Southern?
I think that North Carolina Central showed the balance, the coaching, the go-get-itness of a team that is probably number 2. We haven't seen teams play, but I would have no issue with moving them up to number 2. We have not seen FAMU play. We talked to a couple of folks that were FAMU fans at the game, and they were, in CB's words, trying to famsplain how good they were going to be this year. That is yet to be discovered.
Famsplanation is what I call it. It is famsplanation.
Famsplanation.
Yeah.
They explained it. Looking at the performance and all, that's all you have to go on. I would have no issue with moving them up to number 2. Southern, on the other hand, you asked us the question, what is the bad loss? My answer was Southern was the only team that could have a good loss. I agree 150% with CB. That was a bad loss. Had they had a decent loss, made the game close, it was not even competitive, to be honest, in the second half. You saw everybody, including Ray Charles, saw at the point at when that game became over. So had they made it competitive, I would say at least keep them in the 7, drop them down to 6 or 7. But I would agree they're an 8 or 9, barely. I think they're still barely in the top 10, but I moved them down to an 8 or 9, given their performance. We hadn't seen Morgan State, so there's pause for the cause to think that they'll be hopefully equal to or better than Morgan State, which is sitting at number 6. And then if you go to the next screen, I don't know if you can go to the next screen. If you look at the 8, 9, and 10, Tennessee State, Alabama State, Alabama A&M, you got an Alabama State that's going to play. So I would keep them right around that 8 or 9 range until after week 2. That's where I would drop them.
Good stuff. Let's take a last break and come back on the other side and give you abbreviated thoughts in terms of the rest of the leagues, MEAC and SWAC fans, who's on the ledge, that kind of stuff. We'll do that in our last segment.
We know who on the ledge.
History? Yeah, we built that. Pride? We fuel that. And on August 30th, we run that. 2 powerhouse HBCUs, Howard Bison, FAMU Rattlers, one legendary showdown under the Miami lights at Hard Rock Stadium. The energy unmatched. The culture undeniable. The vibes straight HBCU. 2025 Invesco QQQ Orange Blossom Classic. Get your tickets and book your hotel now at orangeblossomclassic.com. Saturday, August 30th at 4 p.m. in Miami Gardens.
Thank you guys for what you do for HBCU athletics. This is a fantastic avenue for all of us. This is our ESPN, so we love what you guys do. Brian, AD, Roy, all you guys at BCSN. We really appreciate what it is that you guys do for us.
Football fans, HBCU football is back in the ATL with the Cricket MEAC SWAC Challenge Kickoff. Representing the MEAC, North Carolina Central, and representing the SWAC, Southern, Eagles, Jaguars, the Marching Sound Machine, the Human Jukebox. The kickoff trophy is up for grabs, and bragging rights are on the line. The rivalry is real. Bring the family and join us pre-game for the fun-filled Coca-Cola fan experience, including band jamborees, food, activations, and fellowship. For tickets and information, visit MEACSWACChallenge.com.
As technology continues to bring changes to the world of education, it's time we also reimagine teacher professional development. Gone are the days of one-size-fits-all learning that can only be accessed at a specific time and place. The Stride PD Center is an on-demand library of mobile-friendly courses that allow educators to learn anytime and anywhere. Our dynamic courses provide bite-sized learning and help educators advance their knowledge while also gaining professional development hours. The best professional development plans are those that include a level of flexibility and choice for educators. Whether you're a teacher, school, or district, visit us today to take charge of your learning.
Get ready for the inaugural Unity Classic, Saturday, September 13th at Nathaniel Glover Community Field and Stadium. It's a clash of the Virginia Union Panthers of the CIAA and the Edward Waters Tigers of the SIAC. Plus, an HBCU band battle between the Edward Waters Triple Threat Marching Band and the Virginia Union Ambassadors of Sound. The inaugural Unity Classic goes down in Duval.
Press the analytic data with your hip hop. If you know them like I know them, they gon' tell you if your team, if they wanna lose, and who the ball. So listen to Professor, yes sir, and pay attention, cause he gon' teach a lesson.
Well, Mike says he knows who's already on the ledge, so we'll just say that. Who's on the ledge? Mike?
Yes. Hey, go ahead.
I can't have a ledge week one. I can raise some red flags week one, but I can't have I can't have anybody on the ledge week one. So I'll have red flags. Like I said, game management, special teams, defense and offense. That's enough red flags. So that wasn't a pretty day yesterday. Yeah.
Let me go to you, Mike, on this one, since you already said who on the ledge. We won't even like
man, I'm sorry. I went down during the third quarter from the press box to get a cup of coffee to see what the fans were talking about. And besides them annoying Southern fans they had, wet them boos, wet them fans, that whatever. So, man, some of them folks were already on the ledge. I'm sorry. Some of them Southern fans were. I agree with CB. It should just be a red flag. They got some tweaks, but this is a red flag. But some of them fans, I'm telling you, this is Mike. 40 to 50% of Jaguar Nation is already on the ledge. Just listening to them fans out there cursing and talking. That's just me, but some of them fans. And you see some of Carlos Brown's tweets. I think there was a big thing, a big image of alcohol in one of his tweets, and Carlos don't even drink much.
I've never seen Carlos talk like that.
I've never seen Carlos like that. I was like, Carlos, come on, man.
It's going to be fascinating, man. I guess maybe he'll have a chance to kind of, like you said, maybe walk off the ledge if he's there. We're not going to say he's on for Charles's perspective. But let's get back to some of the other coaches in the league in terms of the SWAC. What are your general thoughts with your coaches? What do you think in their mind what they see, particularly maybe the Western Division, Mike? That was for you, Mike.
I'm sorry. I barely heard the question. So, can you repeat it one more time, Doctor?
Yeah, I was just saying in terms of the coaches, even players, but more from a coaching perspective. What are you thinking after they watched this game yesterday?
I'm thinking, how when they go through the gauntlet of the SWAC, the SWAC, if you're Southern, how do we prepare teams to stop those good running teams? What tweaks do we make? The second thing is, which quarterback are we going to keep? Is Cam that dude? Do we keep him in here? Now, he had some explosive plays, but think about who you have to play and some of the defenses that you're going to have in the SWAC. They're going to go back to the drawing board. Is it going to continue to be a quarterback by committee for Southern University? Looking with that schedule in consideration, and you look at who they got to play, that to me is what they're going to do. They're going to look at the drawing board. They're going to hopefully address some culture issues in the locker room, but they're going to look at that schedule and say, what are we going to do in terms of who's leading the ship? And to be honest, I think you're still going to see at times a quarterback by committee coming from Southern.
Charles, what are your thoughts in terms of other coaches in the league watch this game? Where do their minds run in terms of the team that was selected at the beginning of the season to be at the top of the West?
That was a great opening statement yesterday with regards to North Carolina Central. They put out something yesterday that says that they're not just a good team in the MEAC, they're a good team in the FCS. That was an efficient performance yesterday, and I talked about bringing back that personality. I think Jackson State had kind of taken away that physicality component part for the SWAC, and North Carolina Central went out yesterday and sort of reestablished, this is the brand of football that we play. This is the brand of football of our conference. So I think, it brings up an intriguing matchup next week with regards to a new culture. Your coach Oliver, culture over scheme, new culture at Mississippi Valley now. And so we can't, just automatically say, that's a W. I mean, they have a whole new roster and a whole new attitude in Mississippi Valley. So I'm sure they were watching, the game yesterday. It's like, you know what? There's a blueprint. We coming right down their throats.
Yep.
Yeah, I like it. We'll get a chance to really get into a lot of these matchups the rest of the weekend, but I'll get you all out of this on this one. I want to get your final thoughts in terms of just how powerful HBCUs are, particularly at the FCS level with the MEAC and SWAC, being able to have this event to open up the season, have this magnitude of ABC, ESPN plus ESPN Deportes, the pregame, postgame, all those that are connected with it. What are your thoughts in terms of where we are at this moment in time with HBCU sports?
Yeah, I think it speaks volumes. Whenever you have it on 3 channels streaming, and I think you may have stated it, or CB may have stated, we were watching the game, and that game looked really good. If you look at the clarity and visibility just on TV, if you're streaming ESPN or ABC or whatever, the game looked good. And here's an ABC on 3 major outlets looking that good, that crisp. That to me speaks endless words about the importance of HBCU events, and not only their importance, but their value that they bring. Especially at the very beginning of the season, you have a classic like that. That tells you, if not nothing else, the value that this HBCU event and others to come bring to the landscape, to the fray. So, I mean, I don't even have to speak to it. I think the numbers will tell it. I think the quality of the streaming says volumes. When you have 3 ESPN Deportes, who on this thing besides maybe me speaks a little Spanish, and here we had it on ESPN Deportes. So
good stuff. Charles, final.
I think it speaks volumes. I think great job, John Grant, with regards to the growth of this MEAC SWAC Challenge Celebration Bowl as well. But even bigger point, you saw some great football yesterday. So there are multiple teams within the HBCU ranks, whether you're talking about Jackson State, Florida A&M, North Carolina Central, South Carolina State. There are multiple teams that can play some damn fine football. And to an even bigger point, you got some great coaches within both of these conferences talking about the SWAC and the MEAC. So I'm looking forward to a tremendous season here in 25, and I think we're in for a heck of a ride.
Yeah, quality in the product was there.
Folks are already looking forward to Central going down to Tallahassee for fan meeting. We'll talk a little bit more when we get into it. Thank you from the Inside the HBCU Sports Lab. Make sure you share our podcast with friends and colleagues. I am Dr. Cavil, the Dean of HBCU Sports, coming from inside the lab in the College of HBCU Sports with Mike Washington, Charles Bishop. Again, we want to thank you for listening to Dr. Cavil's Inside the HBCU Sports Lab with Mike Washington, Charles Bishop every Tuesday and Thursday. We'll go back to our regular Sunday time at 9 o'clock. That's Tuesday and Thursday at 6 o'clock, and that's Central clock. That is Central Standard Time. We look forward to next week as we discuss the latest news in the lab. Follow me, Dr. Cavil. That's on Threads, Facebook, Instagram, TRKENYATTACAVIL. Inside the HBCU Sports Lab, 1 on Facebook, Inside the HBCU Sports Lab on YouTube. Dream big, continue to move forward. We will talk with you soon. Charles?
Of course.
Mike?
Lecture.
Dismissed.
All right.